This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
Now I'm on it. You see what happened? He would normally give me the finger and let me know, but
there you go.
Oh, here we go. Okay, at least you're consistent.
It's
we
now
don't want you to change your modus operandi. 340-1590, 340-1590. This is the Team Martek Hour with our special producer. Unfortunately, we happen to get the bottom of the barrel, but hey. His wife doesn't want him to do anything.
That's what my mother-in-law said.
we all had the same mother-in-law, didn't we? Couldn't you do better? Well, of course I could have. Well, why didn't you then?
Oh, man.
Back in 2004, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent, Greg Fasula, attorney, and Joe Martek, financial advisor, started doing these radio shows with the simple concept that each one of us had a different area of expertise, and we could answer questions for people calling in, and we figured, we'd last 2-3 months, 6 months, something like that, and here it is, 16 years later, and we're still doing them. And then we added Ms. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, who actually shows up on occasion.
Every 5 years
she gets sidetracked. A client will call her.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, this is one of these girls, if it's Christmas dinner and she's sitting down to dinner and a client calls, she leaves.
It's dedication.
She is. She's 100% dedicated. The hardest working person I've ever met in my life. Which leads me to Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, back in 2008 or 9, give or take, when the Great Recession hit, and there was all kinds of rumors about mortgages and the lack of, and real estate. So that's when the two of them joined the group to dispel a lot of this stuff. A lot of people don't know, but all the way through that Great Recession, there was always mortgage money available. Can you imagine that? Even though the rumors out there wasn't any. And one of the things that happened was they changed the rules. The rules went back to the old rule, which was you had to prove you could make the payment.
What?
What a deal. What a deal.
I'm shocked.
It was a shock. But, there was always the USDA mortgage, which was a no money down mortgage. There was always VA mortgage, which was no money down. There was always FHA mortgages. There was all kinds of financing available. Where mortgage money got scarce was with the jumbos, because banks would hold those. Anyway, so Mike Paulus is one of those that what Mike does is the greatest thing in the world. And I've preached about putting the cart and the horse in a proper order. The first thing you do before you even go looking for a house is call Mike and say, hey, Mike, tell me what I can afford, or if I can't afford, or if I qualify. And he does it in 15 minutes. Doesn't cost you a nickel. It's the smartest thing in the world to do.
You mean I didn't have to get the cardboard box? I could have...
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, one of the things that happens is that with Mike, and by the way, I don't care who you go to, pretty much everybody charges the same now. That industry has gotten so regulated, it's very hard for there to be abuses. But Mike has been 25 or 30 or 40 years in business, and just does a magnificent job for people. And more importantly, everybody in our group is here to help people. We don't always charge people. We don't always actually talk about things that are our area of expertise. But when you've got a couple of 100 years of combined experience, it does come in handy. Speaking of a couple 100 years of combined experience, we also have a special guest member for the last 5 or 6 years now, Alan?
That's correct.
Who is the retired prosecuting attorney from the great state of Wisconsin, which doesn't understand how to vote, I understand.
I am very troubled by what I see in Wisconsin. When I went to bed last night about 11:30, Trump had a 109,000 point lead in Wisconsin. Now Joe Biden has a 7,000 point lead, and it seems like there might have been some shenanigans out of my former hometown of Milwaukee.
Can you imagine that happening?
Oh, I can't imagine
Scary.
it happening.
I thought. No, wait a minute. You were a prosecuting attorney up there.
I know, and I'm
Didn't prosecute
I'm
enough.
dismayed.
You didn't prosecute. You're supposed to persecute some of those people too.
You know, I don't mind if Joe Biden wins the election, but I want it to be done fairly. And there are a lot of questions, not only in Wisconsin, but in other states. And I think the people that are being elected now have to take a real serious look at the way votes are counted. And as far as I'm concerned, they're doing it half-assed backwards. In other words, they should have mail-in voting, but the ballot has to arrive on election day.
Or before, yeah.
Or before.
And count 'em.
Anything that arrives after
Or at least
midnight,
postmarked.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and let's hear it for Florida.
Yeah.
Because, they were counting them as they got them.
Now, what's
You
wrong
know,
with that picture?
They just don't publicize
They
it,
put them in the
obviously,
machine, and the machine kept the tally.
Sure.
And it
Well,
was pretty simple.
I can certainly understand. I mean, in the party cases, they wanted to have people validating those counts.
Of course.
So they wanted to be there as those things happen. And, for all of the counties here in Florida, and I don't know that, like I said, a lot of people didn't think that it was a good idea not to have, that extra supervision. But we've seemed to have managed. I mean, I came down here past 2000 to reteach remedial math on how to count ballots, because I came from Ohio and we were waiting to see who was president back in 2000, and that was the joke when I was leaving. It's like, why are you going to Florida? Well, I'm teaching people how to count.
Teaching people how to count. Yeah. Well, you gotta figure out how to hang chads too.
Oh, well, I was looking for a Chad to hang at the time, but I couldn't find anybody by the name of Chad.
Go to Palm Beach.
Go to Palm Beach. Yeah. Speaking of Mike Willis, who is sitting here, is a special guest today. And Mike, tell me, give me a 4-part harmony of what you do and how you can help people if you show up on this show on occasion.
Well, actually, we have been around since 2004 with Sungeet Computer. And basically, we fix computers. That's really the bottom line. We do laptops, desktops. We sell new and used computers. I mean, pretty much anything dealing with a computer, we take care of. And, during the COVID here, everybody was in school and, they still had to, they were working from home. And there was a huge demand of, for computers, because I don't know, the big box stores sold out to the bare wall. So we were able to, supply a lot of kids to keep them, keep the little children's working well and fix the ones that weren't working well, and that's what we do.
There you go.
Plain and simple.
340-1590, 340-1590.
And Michael has a device in his store.
Yeah.
That will cure COVID in your computer.
Well,
seriously.
I really do. We have something that I designed a dozen some odd years ago called a negative pressure blow vessel. And what it does is we take computers, we stick them in there, we blow out all the little dust bunnies, but we also have a UV light that we treat each computer, laptop, keyboard, phone, whatever, with the UV light, which kills off 99.9% of anything.
Does it work on ex-wives?
It could work on ex-wives or,
anybody.
Children that are not listening.
Children that are not listening. Hey. Yeah. Speaking of Victoria Lloyd, she just came in today. We figure you might have gotten sidetracked and got picked up by another client of yours or something.
No, I called and told her I was on my way.
Well, yeah,
it was called traffic.
Even when you called, it doesn't mean you always show. Because,
that's the absolute truth, because I do make U-turns.
There you go.
There was a police officer in front of me on US 1 making a U-turn. Almost had everybody have an accident. Didn't even have his siren on.
But let's take a phone call. Do we have Russ? Russ, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
let's face it, there's been mail-in votes for, decades now? So the only reason anybody leaves any confusion is so that anybody that wants to cheat can do a better job of cheating. There's no other reason for any confusion. It's not the first election.
But the bottom line is always going to be cheating. In fact, Mike here was saying that, is it Arizona, that they were handing out felt tip pins for people to mark ballots, and the felt tips didn't read?
Unsubstantiated. There was reports that I'm seeing on Facebook and other social media that there was a problem where some of the polls were handing out felt tip pens in order to fill out the ballots, and the Scantron machines require actual ink pens in order to register the vote. So that's one of the
that's
rumors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Never even thought about that.
Well, the whole concept has always been, and what you just said, Russ, there's always been voter fraud. And I mean, in defense of both parties, and I mean not defending. What's the oxymoron? Honest politician.
Military intelligence.
Yeah. Russ.
It's odd, though. It's odd that the Democrats seem to be the ones that find trunk loads full of votes, and you never hear a Republican doing that.
Well, I will tell you there have been a few occasions in history that I could respond to, but I'm not going to. But the bottom line is this: voter fraud has been around forever, and I expect it to be. And right now, we were just talking a minute ago when you first called in, this mail-in ballot stuff. To me, I understand states' rights, and I understand that each state can have its own way of doing things, and that's fine if the state election. But on a national election, we are the United States of America. We should have one system for voting on national elections, and including mail-in ballots or any kind of ballot. And I have never understood why we have to have this aggravation from state to state, except I guess Philadelphia has a bit of
it was interesting. They had the state attorney general of Pennsylvania on Today's Show, and he mentioned every county does its own thing.
No kidding. Every county.
Every county. So
wow.
They have, like we do in Florida, 67 counties, and he said they all have different voting systems. To me, why don't you just standardize it? I mean,
I know this. I know this computer guy, Mike Willis. He could probably set up a system for the whole country that would be standardized.
Well, and that actually brings us to another point, which I've heard a lot of people ask about over the years, is, well, how come we're not doing it online? And trust me, as a computer expert, you do not want to do it online. You do not want online voting.
Too much chance for fraud.
It's right. I mean, every day, thousands of times a day. Most people don't even realize that their home systems are being attacked and browsed and looked at, being infiltrated a dozen or dozens of different ways.
Yeah. But what if your online vote is on an intranet, if you will?
You can encrypt it or whatever.
With your thumbprint or your eye scan.
I bet you.
Because you've got it all on your iPhones now.
Well, think about this. I mean, eventually hackers will want to try to get that biometric data, and Facebook to some degree, and Google already has, with your face scan and other things. I mean, it's possible that somebody could come up with the technology to mimic that.
These computer geeks, we got one sitting next to us here. They come up with these things, and some of these kids make a few bucks doing this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, over the years there were companies that I've worked with that have suffered some of these attacks, and fortunately we've never ever paid a hacker. I don't ever recommend that because that encourages it and other things, but you have to have that infrastructure in place to survive post-attack. And CryptoLocker, without getting too much, CryptoLocker was one of the most feared things that I would always look out for my customers. Say, you have to have a good backup. You gotta make sure that if nothing else, put an automatic backup on that backs up into the cloud, because eventually one of these things are going to get through and get you.
See, here's one of the problems. So let's take the average rummy, which is me. which I dislike computers to start with, and we're all
I
stuck.
noticed you have a crack in your phone there,
Well,
so I didn't
well,
wanna...
of course, that's so I can get into it easier. But the key thing to me, the key thing to me is
Damn password. Oh.
yeah, don't we? I mean, technology is wonderful, but gee whiz, it used to be so much fun driving down the street, stopping at a payphone.
Yeah. And do you have a quarter, a dime? What era was
whatever
it?
it was. Well, remember you used to have what was it? You got a special number. You could dial in your number. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean the beeper? The beeper?
No. Passwords. So you didn't have to use a nickel or dime or quarter.
Really, I never heard of that.
See what Vic, you're not as old as me.
That's true.
Okay, so maybe
I'm back
this
where
is...
you had to run, hand crank the thing up and then talk to an operator. And Mabel wanted to tell you about the kids and everybody before you can make a call.
Yeah, you were watching Laugh then, right?
Yeah.
So can any of you tell me where there is a payphone at here?
Anymore, yeah.
I mean,
Probably
maybe we should make that a contest.
at
find out-
airports, I bet you still. That's
Maybe,
about
yeah.
the only
I have
place.
seen some.
Yeah, but you,
Not many, but I have seen some.
Well, that's because you live out there in the hinterlands on
That-
Grand.
That's right.
Wait, but was it... I
Only
think I know
place
where
I've seen him recently are the jail.
Yeah. So,
Huh?
you're
What were
in-
you doing there?
You're in
jail?
jail
Yeah,
again?
I knew you'd pick up
Yeah.
on that.
Wow.
Hey, how come when they do call you from jail, they can't say this is so and so calling from jail? It just says, "Will you accept a call from jail?"
I don't know how often
I've never got a
how
call
often
from
do you
jail.
get these calls?
Yeah.
I have gotten random calls, and
Well,
I
how-
won't accept them.
Well, let me ask you a question.
It's Lenny.
Hey, it's your husband. Oh no, wrong guy. Hang up.
This is a call from the St. Lucie County Jail. Dan is calling. Will you accept the charges?
Which Dan?
Which Dan?
Yeah,
right?
which Dan?
340. Hey, Russ, my man. Listen, it's not over till it's over, right?
He's gone.
Well, here comes another thing we were talking at the beginning. The part that listen. This is I'm a conservative. I want Trump in, but I believe that the election is going to turn for Biden and he's going to win. But what makes me happy is that the Senate is being controlled by the Republicans, which we now have gridlock, which I love gridlock, which means nothing can happen unless they come across the aisle and do it for the betterment of us. Can you imagine them actually working together for us?
Well, the tribe thing has really built up over the last several years, and that concerns me.
Oh, yeah.
And we all remember the scenes of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill at the White House having drinks together after going at it during the daytime. But those days are long gone.
Well, attorneys used to do that. Remember, Alan? You could be a prosecuting attorney and somebody was a defense attorney. You guys would fight tooth and nail in front of the court. Then you go out and have a drink because you were all, quote, honorable. You didn't lie, cheat, steal. Can you imagine that happening anymore?
It does with certain attorneys, like Greg Fasula, for instance.
Very good. That was a plug. It's a solicited plug. That was
we
good.
use Greg.
Yeah.
Trust him.
So the whole concept, guys, of a group here is to answer questions for people. We do talk politics quite a bit because it's been pretty big conversation, but it looks as though the court system, attorneys are going to jump into this thing with multiple
on both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Is it that surprising now that Trump and the party pushed so hard to get their Supreme Court nominee through?
Yep.
I mean, it was always kind of, it was always in the back of everybody's mind, we have to, this is an absolute must, but, it's proving out that this is...
Guess what's going to happen, guys? This is Nancy Pelosi for president, January 20th.
Oh.
Please, no.
I know.
And I have to start drinking
Would she bring Chuck Schumer as her vice president?
No, she wouldn't.
No.
Her husband would never allow that.
Is that right?
No, Gavin Newsom will probably come in as vice
Oh, that would be good. That's exciting.
Mr. Martek, do you realize we have been spending a lot of time the last few weeks talking about people panicking in the stock market? And, well, if you're panicking, get out of the market. And do you realize that all the market has done since Friday is just go up?
Have you done the Dow this morning?
Yeah, it's up 600 points.
Not bad. See, they're looking at gridlock too. I mean, this is the whole concept. Is they're looking at the worst thing that can happen right now.
Or are they also maybe looking at the fact that maybe they believe that, because usually if the change would have happened, I think the market would be down.
Well, look,
if it was obvious,
even if
happen.
Trump gets in, the House is still going to be held by the Democrats, so we still have gridlock, no matter what. Now,
well, what was interesting, you mentioned the House, was the Republican Party was assuming that there is no way they can get to 200 seats.
no.
Well, they're at, what, 208 or 209 now?
Yeah.
That really is a real turnaround for them,
Well, they
and the
picked
Democrats are not happy.
No, but they still have control, the Dems do.
I understand, but
If you have one too many, you win. If you have one too little, you lose. So, hey.
Unless it's in San Francisco and they don't keep score.
You know, the most important thing is the fact that in this day and age, whoever is the president isn't that important, except if we're in a war, a national emergency, something like that. But the key thing is the Supreme Court now has 3 new conservative judges on it, and that's going to put a lid on any way out policy.
If they really become conservative. Now, you have noticed in the
To
past.
be joined by 35 other Supreme Court judges.
When we pack the court now. But here comes back again. In order to pack the court, they have to have the Senate. Ow!
Yeah.
Can't do that. Yeah. 340-1590, 340-1590. I know, Alan, you were talking about where people getting out of the market, and I have had a few clients that totally got out of the market. In fact, another stockbroker buddy of mine, he took all his money out, and he's in cash, and he says, yeah, I may miss some on the upside, but I'm willing to take that risk. So everybody that got out is probably sorry today because the market's starting to roar because it looks as though gridlock is occurring no matter what. And no matter who wins the presidency at this point,
That's irrelevant now.
It doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
The House and the Senate are divided, and that's a win.
Yeah. And that's what you want to see is the House and Senate divided.
340-1590, 340-1590. Speaking of real estate, hot market still.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very
Interest
still
rates.
good price. Interest rates are amazing.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I had somebody complaining that they wanted to do a refi because they had a 5% and they wanted to get a better rate. I said, come on, you're still a single digit. I mean, I know it's not a big difference, but in their minds, they looked at it as such a big difference.
My girl Dee, she's got a 5.5%. So I had call Mike and do the math.
Of course. And how did it come out?
Well, he talked her out of it because basically,
the cost.
Yeah, she doesn't owe that much.
Right.
The cost to refinance, and she really doesn't want to put cash in her pocket. There's not a reason to do it other than to lower the interest rate, and it's about a 5-year break even, depending on how big the mortgage is, to make it pay. You got to pay your fees.
But she needs a bigger house anyway. So her deal would really be, let's sell them.
Why does she need a bigger house?
Because they keep having babies.
Oh,
and then the babies get bigger.
Wait a minute. I'm a sport model.
You're a sport model.
So is it? My son actually was looking for a house a couple of months ago, and he's up in Jacksonville. And what was happening is that he would call down to an agent and say, "Hey, yeah, listen, I'd like some houses to look at." He'd go to the site, he'd pick a couple, 4 or 5, and he'd call back. He'd say, "Okay, I want to set up to look at this one, this one, and this one, and this one."
And it's gone.
And they're gone.
Yeah, no.
They're just gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
well, if they're really nice houses and they're valued right, they're going to be
now.
Of course.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, of course.
That's crazy.
And they fight over them, and that's the thing. And
yeah.
I just recently had somebody get very upset because she, and the seller can accept any offer they want to.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
But they were very upset that she accepted a certain offer and didn't wait and take their offer.
Well, guess what happens is, so what? That's called the real world.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, is here. Our special guest member, Alan Love, retired prosecuting attorney. Mike Willis, computer geek. Is that a fair description?
Oh yeah, actually, if you look up the term geek, originally in the circus, it was kind of a performer that they would throw fish heads and other stuff, and I do like a good fish head, mainly in a sushi roll though.
That's also good bait for snook, so we're good.
Go out there and have a little lunch and a little fishing. It's a good day.
340-1590. Hey Gene, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Joe, I just had a question. Do you have any results on Proposition 22 out in California? The proposition that was going to screw around with Lyft and
they passed 22, which means
they passed it.
Yeah, so Lyft and Uber can both have independent contractors.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
Way to go, Gene. Have a good one.
Yeah, there were so many different little hot buttons. Or I mean, the one I think it was in Oregon where they passed that they legalized hard drugs.
Yeah.
I mean,
recreational drugs.
Recreational. Yeah.
Yeah, that was you can.
But recreational hard drugs. He's talking.
Oh
cocaine,
cocaine and
heroin.
No, heroin.
Yeah,
cocaine and heroin.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that even?
Well, you know what? There was an argument that I heard, which is the only one that I accept as having any intelligence whatsoever, and that is, when you buy this stuff on the street, last time you and I bought heroin, we shared a needle and we both went in the hospital with hepatitis or whatever.
Yeah, I do not recollect that, Senator.
What I'm trying to say is, if it's regulated.
Wait a minute. It was me, you, and Hunter, right?
It must have been Hunter.
Okay,
must have been
right.
Hunter.
Sorry about that.
Alan, were you there with Hunter when we were doing that drug deal?
Let's get serious for a minute. There is a real conflict here because Oregon has now legalized drugs which the federal government absolutely will arrest you and try you and put you in jail for it.
Well, don't go over the state line.
Which is the problem with Colorado.
Yeah.
Because
Same
those
problem.
pot places can't have bank accounts.
Well,
for the same reason.
I swear, officer, I thought my gummies were just regular. I swear.
How come you have 2 jars full? Anyway, the concept.
Don't look in the trunk.
That they.
50-pound bag. I like my gummies.
You and Ronald Reagan, jelly beans.
That's
right?
it. Yeah. Oh, I never thought about THC infused jelly beans.
There you go.
Wow, yeah.
The concept they were saying is, if it's regulated, less people will die. There'll be less cases of overdose, et cetera, et cetera. Now that's the only argument that made almost a little bit of sense. I mean, almost.
It's
but
the same concept as needles. I mean, that was one of the original reasons why that they wanted to do needle exchange programs to stop or to reduce the AIDS epidemic. They, if people were using clean needles so I get the concept, and to some degree, I have even said over the years that maybe we should just legalize it all, like some countries like Holland. Not everything per se, but they've legalized a lot.
Well, just think there's another positive, though. In Portland, Oregon, they've had all this rioting. If everybody was stoned, there'd be no rioting.
Do you know of a single THC facility in Portland that burned down? I just was curious. Anybody? Yeah, call in and let us know if you know of one.
If you know one that got burned.
If
it did, everybody was stoned as it was burning.
With Oregon, though, it's taxes. And that's like the new
so wait a minute.
Driving tax. So if you brought your car, Mike, to Oregon, you would have to pay a mileage tax of what they figure you will drive for the next year. So like a friend of mine who was doing NBA basketball, they got a bill for almost $15,000.
Oh my gosh.
Because he's driving from game to game to game to game?
Well, no. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he's retired now. But this is what they figured is what he would drive on Oregon highways.
Wow.
So therefore, that's going to be an annual tax for him.
See,
he's moving to Florida, by the way.
What if he owns a bike?
Yeah.
But that's what San Francisco, they want to tax, road tax on electric vehicles because they're not paying the fuel tax.
See, I thought you were going the other way with that. I thought you were going to say on the hard drugs that, the drug dealers have to collect the state tax before they can do the... Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590. Interest rates are still below 3, are they not?
Yes, they are.
This is just...
I haven't heard them going up at all.
Well, T-bills, 10-year T-bill is still below 1. It's like 8700s, and that's not that the average person understands the correlation, but basically there is a direct correlation between the cost of money that the government publishes and what mortgages our people pay. Obviously, a lender has to make a profit, but if they borrow money from the government for, say, 1% and they loan it out at 2.5%, there's a chance to make a profit. So that's the whole, and Vic, her and I, we go back in real estate to late 70s, early 80s, And we used to all say, gee, one of these days if interest rates would just get back to 10%, we would be so happy.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, we were 16 and 18%.
Yeah.
They're killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that one development we took over. That developer sat there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Made not one sale. We took over in 87 and sold out 124 condos in 8 weeks. The developer fell on his knees and started crying.
It was, well, hey, you know, he didn't get the money.
No, that's why. He said, how did you do it? Because I had called him and told him he had to come and get his furniture out of one of the existing condos. He goes, what's the rush? I said, we sold it out.
So let me ask you, a number of years ago when the market here got hot, and I always used to tell people we were kind of a bedroom community of a bedroom community, and the speculators started coming in, and investors.
Yeah.
Do you see that raising its head where they're trying to come back in and start? I mean, the market is
always been investors.
Yeah. So what happened here is you've got people that are calling everybody that owns property and saying, do you want to sell your house? Do you want to sell your lot? I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I told them if they call me one more time, I'm going to call the police on them.
I didn't take your call the other day, but go ahead.
but it's just amazing what they're doing to the people. And they're trying to say, oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay a commission, you don't have to pay any costs, we pay for it. And they're scammers because they're trying to steal your property. You got to understand that. They're not doing you a favor at all.
Well, of course not.
So at one time, yes, when we had the boom going on, we had a lot of investors that were trying to ride it. Now we're actually finding people moving and living here. So what we're finding is they're making exchanges. So we've got people that are coming from down south again that are really wanting to live here now.
You ever heard of General Development? You remember that company?
Yeah, don't we?
Vaguely familiar.
It's vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
But really, General Development wasn't the first
one. On Long
one.
Island, and you know they were selling lots like crazy, and people were then building and then only for investment.
Well, what happened
so they could lose money.
They built this product for $74 back then. This is how far back it goes, back in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And back then they were saying, we'll sell it to you for like $74,000. We'll grant you. Everybody thought that was a great price.
Sure.
You know, I'm coming to Florida. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. You know, this is great. Got a carport or something of this sort.
Right.
So people in New York are saying that's fabulous. Well, they started buying and buying and buying. Well, what they felt, they had their own appraisers.
Yeah.
So when we talk about we have to do things the right way and the legal way,
things have been tightened up tremendously for the benefit of the consumer.
That's right. And people get angry with us now because they go, hey, I can afford it. I got a job. I got money in the bank. What do you mean you need all this documentation
Can I use
and
my
paper?
own home inspector? I mean,
you can use whomever you want to for home inspection.
Well, I meant to say for the assessment.
But not for an appraiser.
No. There's a difference. A home inspection is to inspect the home.
Yeah.
An actual appraisal, sure, you can pay for an appraisal, but the bank's going to have to do their own. It's not any good to anybody but you.
Charge you twice.
You're going to pay a fee for that, and that's not going to. They are not going to be able to use
reason
that.
For that, we used to call it a made as instructed. MAI appraiser, which was the official designation. Well, if you are selling real estate and you have a appraiser in your pocket, say, well, we need that price to come up a little more.
Like 1 or 2 more thousand, you know, come on.
Just
so
a
then the
little
banks
bit.
figured
Certainly
out, you know,
that's
that
not a
we were
problem,
doing that kind of stuff and said, hey, no, now the bank orders the appraisal. Now this can be...
And not that we ever really did that, because we
No, but
really
I'm trying
didn't do that, but people did do it.
People did
But
it.
we never did.
But the key thing that happened was, and it's an interesting phenomenon today, which can come back to haunt you, is that you have a sale in, let's say, Northport, St. Lucie, and they bring an appraiser up from Broward County. And
they don't know our market.
They don't know the market. They don't know the comps. They don't do what I would consider a proper. And it may be legal and it may be done according to the book, but it's not necessarily understanding the marketplace. So
absolutely,
the buyer and the seller can have a problem. On the other hand, if they don't like that appraisal, call back to the bank, have another one. Pay. You're going to pay again for it. But the bottom line is, the bank is not out there to hurt people. Any lender is not. They're trying to do the right thing.
Or we can say, these are comps that we pulled up in the neighborhood. Would you please look at them and please review them?
So you can request it to be evaluated?
We don't talk to the appraiser.
You talk to the bank.
We talk to the actual lender.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other thing is, though, with these appraisers now, a lot of the lenders had their own appraisers, like Joe's saying.
Yeah.
They were there, and they go, okay, Joe's going out to do appraisal today. You're going to go out and do your appraisal today. You know, Victoria calls, she has 5 that she needs, and this guy needs 2. Now they have to go to a central location where they have to call into an independent appraisal company that goes out and does the appraisal. And we got to wait 10 days for that. Now, people are going, why is my loan taking so long? Because underwriters that all this has to go to with the lender, has to review them, and they're taking a long time now because they're so busy. They got stacks and stacks. You think you're the only one on their desk, but you might be 100 of them before you.
When COVID was coming through, I mean, I bet that even pushed it back even
big
further
time.
for a time.
Everything got hurt.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're still really going backwards, because people are still working from their homes.
So we're trying to reach a market equilibrium, in your opinion, or in other words, we're kind of backed up and we're not yet quite balanced out, or?
Well, I just think that buyers and sellers just have to realize we need to have a little more time. You know, I work with people in New York, so you're going to have a closing October 15 on your property in New York, but it might not close till November 15th. They have a 30-day period in there. And when they come to write a contract with us and we have a contingency on that, we have to say on or before the 15th of November. We can't even say October because they won't tell us until it's right down to the minute.
So that's an interesting aspect. I mean, how much of the stuff are the people that you're talking to are from out of town, not necessarily down south or somewhere else in Florida?
Most of our people always from New York, New Jersey. We've gotten them forever.
That's always number one.
Yeah, that's that's always been.
Out if
they let 3 people you're in from Ohio, though.
I mean,
but we are getting more people from that. Ohio, we're getting people from Maryland, where I'm originally from, where they used to go to the West Coast. We're getting them from all over now.
But Mike, you said a word that has never occurred in life: equilibrium.
Oh yeah,
down the middle. It's either too much or too little. You never just kind of coast
for a hot second,
and
perhaps,
where everything works according to the system.
This works our way back to the election systems, where Victoria was talking about New York doing things so differently. We know Connecticut does. Can't that all?
Are you using logic again?
Well,
let me tell you the worst thing that can happen.
Don't do that.
Are you ready for the worst thing that can happen? Your house, we got you under contract. We're going to close the November 30th. We might not even get the approval for that buyer. It might be 3 days before we're ready to close nowadays.
Yeah.
So you've packed up your home.
Yeah.
And maybe the loan gets denied at the last minute.
But here comes
before or after the fire.
Yeah.
Is it? No, it's scary. I think that we need to change our system on how this works, because there's a lot of people that put out a lot of money to think they're leaving, and we can't guarantee it.
Let me toot your horn a little bit, Vic, because what happens is not every realtor is going to explain everything to you to your benefit to make sure you understand the possibilities of these things happening. So one of your big strengths is your people, when they buy, they're educated. They know what they're doing. They know what the downfalls, pitfalls might be. Like my girlfriend does closings at a title insurance company. Well, now lenders are scared to death because of COVID, and if you've got a job, they want to make sure you're on your job.
Sure.
So let's say your closing is going to occur Monday, and you get paid on Friday. Well, they may want to see that Friday pay stub, not the week before, the last pay stub, because they want to make sure you're still employed. Because one of the problems when a lender makes a loan, if the people don't make the first payment, they have to eat that. They can't sell that loan to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So
and we always have a 30-day grace period because you're only paying interest for the first 30 days.
So they're scared to death. So the whole concept of COVID has really made it very difficult for everybody. That's one thing. Then two, the market hotter than a pistol because of low interest rates. Then the volume of paperwork has been,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
all
amazing.
of this was designed to protect the consumer. Whether it does or not makes no difference. I've often said, Mike, it's like being Catholic. Don't ask questions, you just are one. Here's the rules. Once you know the rules, you have to go. You want to change them? Fine. Mike, Greg, you were just using logic. Logic has worked only in marriages, right?
That's right. That's correct.
You notice he's scratching his head. You're having a heart attack there? You're sweating a bit now.
Yeah. Carol seems to use it pretty effectively on him.
She
I've
does.
seen it a couple of times.
Yeah, she logics him very well with a club, I've noticed, and it works.
Joe, think about this, too. They've changed it also when you talked about a paycheck. They're actually going to call your employer before we close.
Yeah.
The other thing that people...
That's always, though, isn't it?
No. Once they verified it, it was verified. Now they're actually calling.
There was a business here in town that was doing loans, origination for other entities, and let's just say that they weren't that scrupulous. They weren't that trustworthy, and it was assumed that a lot of the documentation, other things. This was prior to the crash, I think, in 2008. Yeah, because again, we had serviced them a few times, and one day we got a little visit from the FBI and say, "Hey, do you know such and so?" And I'm like, "Well, it's funny. We're looking for him too. We got a bill of something here. Do you know where he is? Because well, we're asking you. Do you know where he is?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. So probably just file that."
He's in South America now.
Yeah, they took off. So
and
his first name's Hunter.
Yeah.
Street Force Hero. That kind of died, didn't it?
What?
That the Hunter Biden thing, it fell apart.
It's just heating up
the last few days.
I don't think it's going to completely go away, but it could be if I'm very optimistic that Trump will prevail.
Pull it out.
And it remains to be seen. I think though that it's kind of like the Hillary thing. I mean, there was a lot of promise made
and it never happened.
And it never happened. I think it's kind of more important than ever that's followed up on, if for no other reason, to put faith back into, that an accusation was made. Let's follow it to a conclusion.
The only thing I did hear, and only one line, that the FBI has now opened an official investigation for money laundering to trace, because if all of these dollars came into the Bidens as a group, multi-millions, you're supposed to report this.
Did you follow the circumstance which the hard drives were gathered up?
No.
So, and again, just to make clear, what happened in Hunter's case was a bit unusual. I guess he had went to another computer repair company. How
dare they?
How dare they? Well, and actually, I'm kind of glad that he went to the other.
Right.
You might have
a contract out on you now.
But, he basically left the equipment. I mean, for a very long time, they had tried to, get settled up. And, like a lot of companies, we get abandons periodically, and that equipment becomes ours over time.
Yeah.
I really apologize for that.
Not that we know anybody would do such a thing. Anyway.
But, and so the computer company owner, I guess he looked at something there that was very bad, and he went to authorities and tried to get the FBI to actually, they refused to receive in the drives or receive in any of the information. And finally, he wound up copying it, and he distributed it to both the local authorities, state authorities, I think the RNC and a few other interested parties. And, so it really was one of these kind of things that they've had access. The FBI has had access to this stuff for over a year. Yeah. And why it was not looked at. I mean, that's another big mystery in my mind, is that, the accusation was there. He is a national figure, because of who his father is, and yet it was ignored. So,
well, hey, honest politician. Here we go.
Well, I think, the one thing Trump has done, and whether he wins or loses, he claimed coming in he would clean the swamp. Well, he may not have cleaned it, but he sure made you aware.
Made aware of the problem.
That there really is something going on in D.C.
Well, it's amazing how a person can go into politics, living paycheck to paycheck, and come out 10 years later multimillionaire. I mean, it's just a coincidence,
One thing to keep in mind is every 2 to 4 years, the politicians do change. However, the system, the swamp, the underpinning, the staffers and such, they don't.
They don't, right.
So you have to really begin to question, where is the real power in Washington? And it's a protected class there. They can't, again, another act of Congress, or, apparently maybe even 2 acts of Congress to get those people removed. So it's...
Hey, probably never going to happen, because you might notice most of them are attorneys.
Yeah.
Alan, does that make any sense to you? Because most of them are attorneys, that the system's never going to change to the benefit of the people?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that the legal system has a flaw in it, and that is that when you get in higher positions, you like it too much, and you want to protect yourself, and you've got friends that to help you to protect yourself. And
wait a minute, they wouldn't do anything unscrupulous.
Can you imagine
that?
Oh,
no, Mike, never.
Not in Florida, anyway. Especially in St. Lucie County, that would never.
Did you ever see that 60-minute story?
Only in Martin County, right?
On how much time a congressman spends doing fundraising at the RNC or DNC.
Yeah, makes
either
no
way,
difference.
Probably 95% of their time. I bet.
80%.
Yeah.
The key thing is, guys, it's the system. And listen, thank you, Lord, we live in America. Thank you, and even thank you more, we live in Florida. But nothing is perfect by any stretch. And if we go to other countries, boy, oh boy, we're gonna hear a same kind of stuff that we talk, even sometimes more viciously. Hey, by the way, I got a kick out of it. What were all the demonstrations for going on all over the country? In Seattle, they were doing them again.
They boarded up Beverly Hills.
What in the world are people? We don't know what's happening.
Those weren't demonstrations; they were peaceful protests.
Peaceful protests.
Peaceful protests. With bricks being delivered at key. That's another rumor that is also going around. No, I'm a registered Republican, and I've had my differences with because I insist that Republicans actually hold their values to what they say they stand for, which has put me at odds on occasion.
Yeah,
there are values.
They're supposed to be.
Oh, you did. You did hear the.
I read a book once.
You did. You did see the country song. I think my dog's a Democrat. Did you ever hear that?
No.
Yeah, I definitely.
It's one of the cuter songs, but. The object, I guess, that we're all looking at is we are all kind of pawns in the scope of this thing, and we're hoping that X number of the people that are sitting in these positions of power are actually trying to do something for the benefit of us pawns. And as we hope. In the meantime, America is the land of milk and honey, and we have free enterprise. We have capitalism as long as we don't become a socialist society.
Wait a minute, free enterprise, is that on UPN now where you can watch no commercials, or what do we?
No, that's not the same thing.
Not the same enterprise. Okay, I thought maybe we were talking Star Trek, because that's another expert area that I could bring
Star
to the
Trek.
table. So.
Star Trek.
340-1590, 340. So is Wisconsin finally settled yet or not?
Oh no! Definitely it's going to be going into the courts. I have no doubt about that.
You don't think Wisconsin's going to settle today or tomorrow?
No.
I mean, certainly this isn't happening in Madison,
Monday,
right?
What about
Monday?
Okay, now you're talking just Wisconsin. How about Michigan? How about Georgia?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean,
I know.
You want to use my 8-ball here?
My
I'll give you the one I was given by a client that didn't work for them.
My favorite candidate didn't even come close. Harold Stassen. You're old enough.
You are. No,
Harold.
I'm not old enough to know that name.
Oh yes, you are. He ran every.
I thought you voted
for.
I thought you voted for Barry Goldwater.
I did, as a matter of fact. It was my first election.
There you go. 340-1590. We're running down a little bit in time. 340-1590.
We used to shop at Goldwater's when we worked in.
Yeah,
Arizona.
yeah. That was Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Was that any relation to Gold Circle by chance?
No.
No, actually, our little television station launched Linda Ronstadt.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
She and the
wonderful.
Stone Ponies used to come over and practice at the station in the studio.
That's before she got political, right?
She's not political.
Oh, my God. You flaming liberal. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, she's just a little
Lord.
tiny bit.
Jeez.
Just
Where
a
you been?
touch.
Where you been? Oh, he's from California. He thinks that's normal.
Yeah,
She
there's
just had a little
California
bit too
Republican.
much cactus juice.
Yeah, but she has MS now. She can't talk or sing or anything anymore.
Well,
Such a beautiful
woman that
voice.
can't
I
talk
loved
is
it.
kind of a
Blue
miracle.
Bayou.
Oh, yeah, Blue Bayou.
Of course. Hey, she was a talent and a half.
She
Jerry
was.
Brown liked her for a while.
Really? Yeah.
Remember your
Yeah,
favorite
he did.
governor?
He did.
Which is another thing. I mean, speaking of, unfortunately of late, what I've kind of been facing is, a lot of the folks that I listened to growing up, when it's one thing if you have a political opinion and you're in certain areas of showbiz, I guess, it's one thing, but, really, especially if you've sung songs in the 80s and 90s, don't tell us your political opinion. It puts me off. I can't really listen to some of the same music the same way anymore.
Oh, you didn't like seeing Lady Gaga with a vote, Matt?
Yeah, I liked it. Hey, hanging on Joe, boy. Hey, listen. That was okay.
Go back up there in the chandelier.
But it's
that was Sia.
This is America. We have free enterprise. We have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Anybody can have an opinion. And once you're a celebrity, you're given more liberty to, and people want to hear what you say. It's like what do we call it?
Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Pink
Yeah.
Floyd was And again, people say, "Oh, you listen to Pink Floyd? You must have smoked a lot of weed." Well, no, I like Pink Floyd sober, which again makes them question me a little harder for some reason. But
you are weird.
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, I have
Pink Floyd sober.
I know. It's
Pink Floyd's quite the concept of. Once you're a celebrity, you're giving automatically people think you know more. Boy, that's exciting.
True. That's true.
And that you're more important.
Well,
just because you make more money.
Well, and
you make too much money for what you do.
Well, I had a buddy.
And why don't you deserve to make more money?
Money is the scorecard and how well you're doing financially.
Well, Bono knows more because he's testified in front of the UN, Congress. I mean, he knows. Well, wait a minute. He does know how to sing Sunday Bloody Sunday, and I'm trying to think. But yeah, geopolitical difficulties. Weird.
Yeah. All it amounts to, guys, this too will pass. The court system is probably going to get involved with this election, which we've known all along that it was going to.
I would not freak out right now. There's nothing to.
Happiness.
You just have to wait.
Happiness is gridlock. I will tell you right now. The fact that the Senate is staying Republican and the House is staying Democrat, it means it's going to be difficult for people to ramrod anything through because each side is going to have to sell the other side.
Just that much, a little bit more difficult for us to get screwed, and I like it.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to say it. With no loving.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590.
And you can vote for president in 2024.
Yeah.
Which is when this election will be settled.
Well, some places you can still vote for president now. Just have to go to the right place.
You can still write in, and maybe
it's not too late, folks.
It might actually be another 2 weeks you can still vote. It depends on the court system.
That's it.
As long as we postmark it.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590. Remember the group. Ms. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, Mr. Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent, Joe Martek, financial advisor, Greg Fasula, attorney, and the special guest member, Alan Love, retired prosecuting attorney, and then a temporary guest member, maybe, Mike Willis, computer geek, and you're going to help the key thing. People, if Mike shows up, you need to call in and get some free information. That's what we got him for.
He'll get you a new hand crank for your computer.
New hand crank, that's it. Hey, remember they had those electric things?
We have extra hamsters. We have extra hamster wheels.
Are we out of time, Chief?
You're 10 seconds.
Well, I want to shout out to Connie and George. And, they're wonderful people.
Who's Connie and George?
They're clients of mine. They bought a house from me like almost 10 years ago. I've got it for sale now. They're home, and they bought another home.
Hi, Connie and George.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Just
Until
wonderful.
next week.
Thank you.
We're
gone.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL.